Hello, you're very welcome back to the fifth in a six-part series initiated by the European Commission called Managing Your Tourism Business Online. And through this series, we're focusing on practice, innovation, and excellence. This series is designed for SMEs to support them to get by with digital. And through a series of 6 different programs, we're going to help SMEs cover a range of topics which are really important for them. So, I'm Nick Hall, I'm your host for this program. I'd like to really encourage you to tweet along, especially as today's program is all about social media in business. So do use the hashtag #MyTourismBiz, and we will answer your questions. You can also tweet the various different guests that we have throughout this program, and we will be having a social media expert joining us live here in the studio, Bruce Martin, who is very happy to answer any questions that you may have on social media. So do start tweeting us your questions as soon as possible. A new feature that we've added in the last couple of episodes is the opportunity for you to navigate within the program. Of course, if you're watching this live, that's not possible, but if you're watching it afterwards, it will be possible. So all you need to do is press the little button there, and that will actually take you to any part of the program that you're most interested in. So if you have a specific interview or case study that you would like to look at, simply click the button and it will load up a menu. But as I said, that's not available to people watching live, so that will be activated later on. In this program, we are aiming to help SMEs succeed in social. So our aim is to cover the vast array of different channels and approaches to social and give some really practical advice and recommendations mixed with different case studies to support that. So let's get started with the program. Number 5, which is about succeeding in social. And I'm going to head straight over in just a moment to our guest, Laura Bujalance, who we've been mentoring through the series. But first of all, I'm just going to run you through what you can expect in today's program. So first of all, I'm going to give you an introduction into the social sphere. Then I'm going to head over and catch up with Laura. And then I'll give you an overview of the changing social media landscape, followed by an interview with Bruce Martin, founder of Ginger Juice. We have an interview with business expert Martin Stoll, who works very much across the whole social sphere in the US. Then we have Ramona Wagner, who will be talking to you about how to adapt your social strategy for today's visitor, followed by an interview with industry leader Mawghan McCabe from Engagor. And finally, we'll have an SME case study from Luísa, who's from a very innovative company called HereWeGo. And just before we wrap up, we will be answering any questions that you may have on this subject. So do get tweeting using the hashtag #MyTourismBiz. But before we get started on all of that, let's head over and see how Laura has been getting on with all the tips and advice that we've been giving her over the past 4 episodes, and also what she's looking forward to getting out of today's program on social media. So Laura, great to have you back. Thanks again for coming now for the 5th program. You've only missed one, so very good. Your business is really starting to develop now. So for those of the viewers who haven't seen you since the first program, just tell us a little bit again about what it is you're building up as a business.
Well, I'm building up Surya Retreats, which is a company aimed at helping yoga teachers create their yoga retreats in Spain, and by that I mean trips focused on yoga practicing, and combining that as well with other cultural aspects and activities, etc. And so I create those packages. Once I've helped the yoga teachers create them, I sell them out as a normal holiday package.
Now, we chose to follow your business through this journey because we thought that actually it's typical of the sort of small and micro-sized businesses that you see throughout Europe and that actually make up the whole tourism industry. So we've been helping you to sort of get to grips with all the different topics and putting you in touch with the different experts so they can mentor you. I understand that quite a lot of small things have been done, some in the background, but also some on the front of your site. So just tell us what you've been up to, maybe starting with some of the work you've been doing on the content of your site.
Yeah, so I've been following the experts' advice from this past few weeks. And this past couple of weeks, I've concentrated on changing a little bit of the copywriting of my website, especially that aimed at the sales part. So I changed a little bit of the tone and the way I presented my services for the yoga teachers. And I've also added a few of the reviews some of my clients have given me already. So yeah.
So you've integrated an element of user content within your site.
Yeah.
And what's the sort of success you've seen by engaging with people? You mentioned to me before a niche yoga community you found.
Yeah.
So tell us a little bit about that and where its value is for you.
Yeah, there's this social network, we could say. It looks a lot like Facebook in a way, only it's only aimed at the yoga world. So it's called Yoga Trail, and there's like a lot of yoga practitioners, but also teachers, yoga retreat centers, a lot of like anything you could pretty much need in the world, in the sector, and that site offers the review option. So I asked a couple of my customers if they would want to do that, and they were really happy to collaborate. And I think it's good because in that site it's a third-party site, so I guess it adds value as well.
So you definitely took on some of the advice.
Yes.
Because you identified a niche community, very good, and you've actually engaged both with your customers and in the community. And how have your customers responded to you sort of engaging directly with them and asking them to share their experience?
Oh, they were really happy to help. People I think in general, are really happy to help. They were happy they could add their review there. So.
And the result is that now within your site you have a greater level of authenticity and transparency with regards to what you're offering.
Yeah.
So that's really good to hear. Now, going over to social, obviously you're going to hear a lot of different experts talking on the subject. But tell us a little bit about the success that you've had in social media so far, maybe starting out with perhaps a slightly surprising channel, given the business you do, which is LinkedIn.
Yeah, I've been active on LinkedIn for a while now. I kind of try to reply to a few of the discussions I follow, and there's a lot of yoga groups as well there. And I've found that a few people have contacted me to ask me about my services, and I even got some job offers through there, and it's been good. For me, it's worked quite well so far in terms of B2B, obviously, communication.
So we often think about social media, especially when we're talking about marketing and tourism, as something that's consumer facing. But actually, your discovery is that in terms of building and developing your business and the products, finding good business communities is equally as valuable.
Oh, yeah. Oh, yes, certainly, yes.
Now, you've also been running some ads on Facebook. Last time you told us that you had done some experimentation. Have you seen any results or successes from these ads?
Yes, certainly. I already got 2 new bookings. One of them I'm sure comes from Facebook. The other one I don't know yet, but I'm working on that. I also got a lot of demands, requests, information requests in general, and they all come from the Facebook ad campaign I launched. So
was that a surprise to you?
Yes and no. I mean, it wasn't, because I guess, we've been talking a lot about this here, and I guess there's a good reason for that. But also, it was the first time I used it, so it was, it was good.
Now, we've been discussing an idea, but I think we will leave it to later. But my Surya pose, is this something that we're going to hear more about later on?
You will.
Okay, the hashtag that is, of course.
Yes.
So that's just a little teaser to get people to watch to the end. But we'll be hearing more from you later, and also getting your reaction from the different experts. And I know that you have a number of questions on social media to put directly to Bruce, who will be joining us shortly. So thanks very much for giving us the updates. I'm going to go now and head over to run you through some of the key principles of social media and what you should consider as a business and thinking about how to plan strategically in this space. So now I'm going to introduce to you how to succeed in social, or at least how to start thinking about getting started. So first of all, let's start out by looking at the social media landscape. Let's think about how to use social media in the travel context. And we'll also touch on consumer behavior, some of the key trends, talk about the social traveler, and also touch on some of the social media channels. Of course, we have limited time, so we're going to give you a quick overview of this whole area. So for business, to try and keep a continuous awareness about what's happening. Each social media has its own goals and different target groups, so it's really important that as a business, you're very focused, you're making decisions about which channels are right for you, and you're very conscious of who your core target groups are and how to reach them. When it comes to adapting, you need to think about having the right content, the right message, and the right way to interact with your customers on a per channel basis, as every single channel offers something slightly different to the other. It's worth considering also that social media is evolving very rapidly towards a more content-rich based type of interaction, very much based around images and video, and also a more mobile approach as well. So when you're developing content, think about creating content that is scannable, tappable, and snackable. This is the key principles to making sure your content is consumed easily for users on mobile devices, which is increasingly the lion's share of social media participants. So this is a chart that gives you an overview of the key social media channels which exist. I should also stress that there are many, many more, as Laura has just told us about, for example, a niche channel focused on the yoga community. There are many, many more, but we thought we would just touch on the top main social networks that everybody knows about, and just give you a quick run through about what some of these have to offer. Bruce is also going to touch on this in more detail, so we will just go briefly over this. Starting with the left, it's perhaps one that the fewest number of people have worked with or engaged with, is Pinterest. It's a social discovery site. It actually works very well in the planning stage of the travel cycle. And what's very unique about Pinterest is, whilst its overall user base is much smaller than many of the other networks, it's very hobby-based. So if you're working in a very specific field, such as fashion, such as crafts, also, in the case of yoga, I have been informed by Laura herself that there are a huge number of yoga fans on Pinterest. You can really build up a very rich, very strong engagement with followers on that. Now, Twitter is slightly different in nature. Most of you know Twitter. Hopefully, you're all tweeting along now using the hashtag #MyTourismBiz. Twitter has sometimes different roles. So many people use it for normal marketing practices, but it also has a very strong role for social customer care. And we see a lot of the leading companies really servicing their customers through Twitter. Facebook is one of, well, the first social networks. Of course, before that, there were the likes of MySpace. But Facebook also has by far the largest reach in terms of numbers. And it's also much richer in terms of the variety of different content there. So it certainly offers the largest opportunities in terms of reach. As we will hear more and more about, Instagram is a channel which is very niche, very focused on creatives, this new era of mobile photographers, and very specific identities sort of being developed there. So if you have a creative business, or you can represent your business in a strong and creative way, Instagram can offer something very rich there. Google Plus, we're going to talk with Bruce a bit more about this later on, because I myself have some questions here. And LinkedIn, as we've been hearing from Laura, is it's entirely business focused, and it can be actually a vital resource in terms of actually developing your products, your business, your network, and your partners. So do consider also the role of business communities when it comes to how you build your business as a small business. Let's look at social media and travel. So why do you get involved with social media? Well, first and foremost, the aim here is to build quality relationships with your audience. This is ultimately where social media offers the richest form of return for you as a business. It's the opportunity to build and connect with your customers. Most SMEs struggle to get to grips with social media. We've worked with many, and we've also analyzed many, and we see time and time again that there is a difficulty in justifying the return on investment that they make in terms of putting time aside for social media Ramona is going to touch on that later on, and she's going to give you how to slice and dice social media in 18 minutes a day. So this is some really good tips and advice that we have for you later on. It's often something that people see as a task that sits on the side, or it's to give to someone else, and it's not really prioritized in a business. And sometimes this is the biggest mistake. So we're going to try and help get to grips with how you actually do that and how you start to see results. But most important, as we've been saying throughout the whole series, is the need to think strategically and holistically. You need to think about how social media fits into your overall strategy and at which stages it has different roles throughout the visitor planning cycle. And we'll touch on that a little bit later and also in the interview with Bruce. So, looking at travelers and how they behave on social media, here's just a few stats and numbers for you just to get you a better idea of how important it is. So first of all, 1 out of 2 travelers, that's half, change their minds about their holidays when they see online comments. Now, of course, we're also including there things like review sites, but it's important to understand the strength of human opinion on something, and of course the role of social media there. Social media is certainly the trusted source when it comes to travel information, and it's one of the key pieces of information which helps people make up their minds. Especially for young travelers, social networks are considered an absolute priority when it comes to getting inspired. It's also important to remember that 70% of travelers rely on recommendations from friends and family. So that's really key when it comes to helping people through the planning phase and helping them to put together all of the ideas where they make a final decision. And last but not least, we touched on this during the review program, 42% of customers are expecting a response within 60 minutes. So it's really important to think about how you service your customers on social media and what level of service you provide them through social media. So let's look a little bit about behavior on social media. And just a few pointers here for you. Consumers have really high expectations when it comes to social customer service. And businesses need to think about how they can limit their expectations and mention in social profiles how long it will take to reply to comments. A good example from the airline industry is EasyJet or KLM. All you need to do is head over to their Twitter, Facebook page, and you'll see that they're very transparent in communicating a service level agreement with their customers, albeit informally. They say exactly when they will respond to comments, and they also go as far as saying what languages they will actually be able to support people in. So they very much communicate how they will expect to engage their customers and what level of service they can provide. Personal and real travel experiences are shared on a variety of channels, and it's important to understand that all of that content being generated also serves the purpose of turning your customers and your potential market into content creators, which will really power your overall marketing message. So looking at social media and customer engagement, remember that images and videos really create strong engagement and very compelling work can have great results in terms of reach, sharing, and especially if you're integrating really rich content into campaigns. Emotions are at the heart of all content, and especially online, emotions are what will drive engagement. Make sure you try those. Put together their ideas. Even reviews, it's right through to the huge opportunity of compiling content through hashtags and creating hashtagable moments, which we'll touch on later on. So, in terms of takeaways, it's very difficult to justify a return on investment. It's often seen as a barrier for SMEs to engage on social media. It's considered certainly one of the most trusted sources of information for travelers, and in particular, young people see it as a priority to get inspiration and get inspired. Ensuring social media is tied in holistically into your strategy is very important. And it's very important to understand how your social media strategy can develop and evolve at every single stage in the travel cycle. And it's on that topic that I'm going to speak to our studio guest with, in more detail, Bruce Martin, founder of Ginger Juice. So in just a moment, I'm going to head over and see what Bruce can advise the small businesses watching this program. So, Bruce,
Hello.
first of all, welcome to the program. Bruce, you are the founder of Ginger Juice. It's a fairly new business working in the social media sphere, supporting and helping travel businesses exclusively. So it's a very niche and focused area that you're working in. I want to just touch first of all on ROI, because it's something that we keep hearing about, and a lot of, especially small businesses.
You really need to start with thinking about why you're doing social media. What's the point of your activity? Some businesses have different needs. Some were looking to increase their brand awareness. Some might be really wanting to drive traffic and generate leads. Some will be, like you mentioned, like KLM there, who are looking to provide a really good customer service. So it really depends on what you're looking to use it for. And obviously for most SMEs, it will be a mix of everything, really. So some things are certainly, these days, are very measurable in terms of, you can measure how many web visits have happened due to social media. The different advertising platforms give you some really great information about conversions as possible. And in terms of brand awareness, which is obviously quite a fluffy thing to measure, but Twitter and Facebook both give very detailed information about exactly how many impressions each post that you've made has reached. So really, if you compare that with, if you like, print media, it's very difficult to say how many eyeballs have seen a particular advert in a magazine. But the good thing about social media is you are able to get a number on how many people have actually got that impression on their smartphone or desktop, etc.
So actually the metrics are there, so you can see the results.
Yeah, I think it was fair to say that a few years ago it probably was a little bit hard to determine ROI, but I think it's probably a little bit of it's an out-of-date thing to say now, because there are lots of things you can measure. Certainly, if you put in money behind some adverts, you get very clear return on investment. You could put £100 worth of really good ads in Facebook, and if you're selling, say, hotel rooms, and you sell 5 hotel rooms for £500, then you've got a return. So it can be very straightforward. And
we hear a lot more about Instagram in the last couple of years. Obviously, it's been hugely successful. Yeah. But I hear again and again and again, what and how should people engage? What should they measure and how should they engage on Instagram?
Yeah, Instagram is amazing because it's really been a massive success story in the last 12 months. And the thing that's really important to know about Instagram, it drives very little web traffic. If you compare it to Facebook, which is a massive amount of web traffic, or Pinterest, it's pretty good as well. Instagram, because you can't have links within each particular post, the amount of traffic that comes through from that is quite low. So if you're looking for obvious ROI, it's pretty tough. But the magical thing with Instagram is that it really hits a certain demographic really well. Millennials and Generation Y are all over Instagram, and great for branding. It's brand awareness is the thing for Instagram can achieve, and just giving it an element of kudos for your brand, which a lot of people are really striving for.
So it doesn't deliver sort of direct commercial results, but it certainly creates an identity and an awareness.
Definitely, yeah.
Okay, I think that's really useful for businesses which have been sort of battling with this. And I think in particular with Laura's business, it's a very niche-focused business, and it's also very emotional in terms of.
And I think the thing with Instagram is we've worked with some brands who who came to us and saying they weren't interested in having an Instagram account. But after we'd obviously keep an eye out for what when people are talking about a brand, and we noticed people discussing a particular brand or a destination or a hotel on Instagram, but they didn't have an account, so they couldn't engage them. So I think it's important for some brands to just be able to say hello and say thanks for sharing, and we're glad you enjoyed your stay. What's the value of that? It's difficult to say, isn't it? But it obviously, if you do that at scale and a lot of times, then people over time you're going to build up a lot of brand loyalty and love for your brand that way.
Yeah. Okay. Great advice there. We often hear, I often say actually, there's no such thing as a free lunch, and I think this applies a lot to social media in the last couple of years. We've seen all of the so-called free social media networks changing their policy quite a bit, changing the ability to reach customers organically, that's without paying. How far would you say today you can go without making an investment in terms of advertising with something like Facebook?
Yeah, if you focus on Facebook, it's difficult these days to start to get a sort of momentum behind your brand. It's difficult to generate audience, and reach can be tough just because it's such a competitive market. But what's important to remember with Facebook is the amount of money you need to invest to actually make a difference is very small. If you have an important announcement to make or an important offer you want to get out to your people, even if you have, like, say, 200 fans, you can pay just a little, say, £3 or $5, and you could reach thousands of people which are relevant to your sector. So we recommend to our customers to say, look, you're going to need to pay to play on Facebook, but you don't need to pay a lot. It's, maybe, we've got some quite large companies that we say, look, just give us, like, say, £30 a month, and we will use it really well on social media. So it's not hundreds and hundreds, but you just a little micro payments can make a really big difference.
So it's important to be, I guess, realistic and not sort of approach social media naively and think that you're going to see huge results without spending anything.
Exactly, and then you're just getting disappointed and then think, oh, it's just rubbish, not working for me. But it's we're just being realistic and saying it's not it's not the year 2008 anymore. It's a lot's changing now, and but it doesn't mean to say you can't get involved if you're an SME. In many ways, it's a really cost-effective way of reaching people.
Great, okay. And in terms of the range of advertising, because I know that advertising is something that a lot of small businesses are now either experimenting with or doing sort of very routinely. How far can you go with advertising across social media? What kind of results should you start to see? So, of course, there are advertising to sort of boost content, but is it also able to drive results to your site, commercial results, get bookings?
The most exciting thing this year that's really taken off is Facebook retargeting. And this is the ability of brands to deliver a specific message in people's newsfeed, which is related to their business. So if someone visits your website, Facebook knows you've visited your website, and you can deliver something on someone's literally on your phone, which can be a specific message. So it doesn't need to be about your website, your general website. Maybe you have like a cruise page in your travel agency website. Then you can deliver a cruise specific message to just those people
who have been to your site.
And that might be say 20 people in the last week, really small, but they're really hot leads.
And I guess this is using cookie data.
Yeah, it's called Facebook Pixels, and it's just putting a pixel into the website and tracking just like Google Analytics does.
So your potential customers who have expressed an interest simply by visiting your site, you can really keep engaged with them even if they didn't follow you.
Yeah.
I guess this is really interesting because this is the sort of tools that the big boys have been using for years and years. Yeah. And for small businesses, retargeting is something that's just been basically inaccessible because you need to be really part of a much more serious...
Totally agree. And as they start rolling this out in the last year, we work with lots of small and medium-sized businesses, and we were thinking we need to really get involved in this because this is going to really take off now. And I think because it's broken down the barriers to a lot of the small and medium-sized businesses to get involved in this kind of thing. And like I said before, the actual cost commitment is very low because if you're paying say 20 pence, 30 pence to get someone back to your website that's been on it recently, and maybe there's only 10 of those people in the last week. Yeah, it's like you definitely pay that. It's because it's like really hot leads.
Now, of course, other networks are all offering advertising now, and I think those who aren't yet will soon be.
Yeah.
Twitter, people have seen great results through sort of time-relevant advertising, and also specifically mobile, pushing mobile products, especially things like mobile apps.
Yeah, definitely. You can. Twitter's got a very powerful platform to target the right kind of people. Both Facebook and Twitter are out a lot way ahead of everyone else in terms of being able to target interest-based things like that. Like we do lots of kind of fun things with Twitter where if there's like an event, for example, with a particular hashtag, you can deliver adverts to only those people that are clicking on that hashtag. For example, my tourism biz today, someone could have been targeting that particular ad. So again, the audience is not worldwide, but it's going to be very specific. So it's quite a fun thing to do to make sure you're getting through to the right people. Then that way.
Do you see a lot of businesses targeting then their competitors using hashtags?
Definitely, yeah.
Okay.
That's exact. Not necessarily hashtags, but you can target followers of your competitors.
That's very interesting. Just quickly, and I think we'll have a lot of questions coming later on for the end of the program. But just before we go to the next interview, just tell us a little bit about the visitor planning cycle and where social media has relevancy throughout that whole cycle.
Yeah, I mean, you touched on it before about the cycle of the customer. It's definitely true that social media has a role to play in all areas of the buying cycle. The way that I like to say it is that social media can create interest at the start of the journey and remove doubt later on. So someone might discover your brand or your destination through social media, and when they're coming to pay for it, they may be given confidence in the fact that you have a really good feed and lots of interesting things to say. So people will think they'll be comforted, and it will push them over the line to make a purchase. And of course, once they've made the purchase, they're able to experiential stuff comes in, and they can share content and they can advocate to their friends how good it was, and so it goes on.
So a really great way to think about where social media has a value, basically everywhere. But I think you summarised it very well there.
Yeah.
Bruce, thanks a lot for joining us. We're going to hear from you later.
Okay. Right.
We'll be getting people to tweet their questions using the hashtag #MyTourismBiz. But now we're going to head over to our next interview, which is with Martin Stoll. He's the founder of Sparkloft Media, and he's got some great stories and experience to share, working a lot with US-based destinations and companies. Let's hear what he had to say.
United States, we focus on the travel and tourism industry. We have clients all over the world, including several in Europe. We've worked with tourist offices in Germany, the Netherlands, Austria, Switzerland, Norway. We have some European airline clients as well.
When it comes to working with social media for small and medium-sized businesses, where do you think it's best to engage with customers online, and what does social media do for the traditional mix of channels that are available?
So I think when you look at social media, there's two sides to it, right? So one of them is consumers have the expectation that they can interact with you on social media channels the same way they can send you an email and they get a response, or they can call a phone number and they get a response. I think the expectation is I can also ask a business and get information through social media. So that puts pressure on the businesses and opens the opportunity to start talking to potential customers on those channels. The other opportunity is more indirect, where social media is being used by a lot of, in the travel industry, a lot of travelers to share their experiences, whether it's in photos, whether it's in reviews, or any of the other forms. And if you have a product that people have a positive experience with, these customers and the travelers will do the work for you from a marketing perspective and tell others about your product, which can, basically you outsource some of your marketing or efforts to your customers.
How does the rise of social media change traditional approaches to marketing today?
So I think it makes, if you want to put social media under the bigger marketing, you basically have more activities that you have to tend to. So now, not only do you have to do, manage your brand and do print advertising or radio ads, now you also have to figure out which social networks or which social platforms should you be on. Should you be on Facebook? Should you be on Twitter? Where does the content come from that you publish there? What are the service standards that you set, how fast you will be, how you will respond? But it also opens fantastic opportunities to connect with influencers, find people who have who are listened to by other people when they form their opinions about where to go or what to do. And social media makes it much easier to find those people and connect with them.
Now, you briefly mentioned content there. Of course, we know that content is really important when it comes to marketing any tourism businesses. How would you recommend small and medium-sized businesses approach content in social media? Should they outsource content creation entirely to their customers? Should they do it entirely themselves? Is there a good balance? What would you recommend?
Yeah, so I think it's hard to give a strict rule without knowing what the resources in the individual case are. I mean, if you are a small business, you have to be realistic about social media can be an enormous time suck, and if you're not smart about it, it will not produce a positive return on investment. Having said that, if you are doing stuff in social media, having good content, especially good visual content, is really, really important. I mean, if you can't do it right, then don't do it. And we find that for many businesses, it is a lot easier to get their customers to, for example, create photos or videos and then repost them on their social channels is an easier content strategy than trying just to go it themselves. So my answer to your question would probably be it's a mix. Do some get content from your customers or users, and then be strategic about what are the messages that where you want to be more sort of marketing or more salesy, and weave that in by content that you have created. But there is no need to say we have to post on Facebook or Twitter or Instagram every day, and we can only use the stuff that we have come up with.
Now, of course, relationships are really important when it comes to social media. What is your advice to businesses in terms of building and forming the right kind of relationships through social networks?
So I think the biggest overlooked opportunity, especially for small businesses, is that they have, whether you are a hiking company or a rafting company or a small hostel, every day you have customers walking through your doors, interacting with your product, usually having a good experience. And leverage that, basically have them tell part of the story, because you can then weave that back into your own channels and amplify it on your own channels. So having a smart hashtag where you can capture those conversations, making sure people tag your business in it, because it also allows you to see who's talking about you, finding people who are more influential, answering questions, and creating a relationship with those people. I think that's an opportunity that a lot of small businesses are not yet comfortable enough with engaging on, and I think that's a big opportunity.
Okay, when it comes to managing social media, of course, you mentioned you have to be realistic when you approach it. If you're a small team, let's say you only have one dedicated marketing person out of a business of 5 or 6 people, how would you approach this? Of course, alongside all of the other marketing activities that you do, how do you manage the quite time-consuming conversational aspects, creating and sharing content, and managing perhaps several different channels?
So I think the key is to really to manage expectations. So one, I think there is this pressure to be on many different channels, and I think businesses should resist that. So you got to be smart about which businesses work for your channels. Who is your audience? I mean, there's the typical Twitter user is very different from the typical Facebook user. Then when it comes to customer service, as you specifically asked about that, I think you have to explain to the user, can I expect that you're going to answer if I send you a message on Twitter, is it realistic that you're going to answer me in 2 hours? Some of the businesses who we see who are clever about this is saying in the description of their Twitter bio or on their Facebook page, we'd love to answer your questions, but today is a glorious day and we're out rafting. We will only get to your questions later today. And so they manage to weave part of what makes the product appealing into making it an excuse and saying, we do not have time to get to you right away. And I think people in this case are a lot more forgiving than just saying we are a rafting business, and we'll answer your questions. So I think you got to be a little bit smart and cheeky about it.
Okay, be smart about it. That's very good advice. Tell me, working with businesses and also with destinations, what changes have you seen over the last 2 or 3 years in terms of the needs of your customers when it comes to social media?
So I think social media is getting a lot more complex. We are seeing budgets are getting a lot bigger. The question on what's the return on investment is getting a lot more prominent. Where in the early days it was, we have a summer intern. Let's have the summer intern do a little bit of social media for us, and nobody was putting any value on the resources that are going behind it. And now with budgets being bigger, more serious questions are being asked, which overall is a good thing. But we're also seeing a lot better results, especially when you look at Facebook, for example, as an advertising platform, how hyper-targeted you can be to really pick on a geographic and lifestyle perspective to put an ad exactly into a small audience that might be very relevant for your product. That did not exist to that extent 3 months ago. And a lot of our transactional clients are seeing phenomenal results on Facebook ads compared to other digital channels like pay-per-click or banner ads. So if you're a small business, I would highly encourage looking into Facebook ads. That doesn't mean putting all your money into Facebook ads, but at least putting some into it and seeing what results you can get.
So I guess key takeaway here is to be smart, to be focused about where you make your investments, and to consider your resources rationally as a small business in terms of where you actually put your efforts.
Yeah, I think what makes it a lot easier is all the stuff you do, you can measure. So you can see how much engagement are you creating, what are people saying about you, and if there's a channel that's not working for you, then don't be afraid to walk away from it, or saying, you don't have to post on Facebook every day if you don't have the resources for it. Then post only 3 days a week, but do it with better content, just to experiment and see what's working, and not to be afraid to make changes if you're not seeing the results that you want to see.
Martin, thank you very much for sharing those insights with us.
Yeah, thanks, Nick.
So now we'll be looking a little bit more about how do you actually need to adapt your social strategy for today's visitor and the different components that you need to think about. Some of the things that we'll cover here is looking really much more in detail at social strategy, also different target audiences that you have to address, implementing your social strategy, different steps and tips that you can consider, and also different insights on social sharing, scheduling, measuring performance of your social media activities, and also measuring ROI. And that's quite important to follow the different steps here. So now when we actually look into the first point of how do you actually adapt your social strategy to the different target groups, but there are also different channels and different perspectives, there's a couple of things that you need to consider. When we look at different target groups, you really need to think about what do your customers actually want to talk about, because only if you talk about things that they like, that they want to talk about themselves, they'll then also engage with you. And also what pictures and what communication approach works best to achieve that. When you look at then the different channels that you can use, you really need to think about which channels are more customer focused and which channels will be used more on a business to business focus. A lot of the businesses that we work with use Twitter sometimes only for business to business communication, or they indicate quite clearly that it's a mix between the two. Also, when you think about adapting your social strategy for different perspectives, it's really important to take into consideration how different perspectives and a different communication approach needs to be put into place. So for Laura, for example, she's actually targeting different travelers who take part in her retreats, but at the same time she also would like to communicate to the different yoga teachers who might actually be putting on the different yoga retreats. So here she just needs to think about what are the different perspectives that she would like to take as part of her social media strategy. Now, getting started with your social strategy, it can actually be done in 8 steps, but of course these are only the basics, and it does require actually some time and some thinking to do it. So step 1, social impacts really all activities that you have. Step 2, listen to your customers and also compare your business with your competitors, see what they're doing, see on which channels they're active. And build your strategy really based on that intelligence that you have. Step 3, what do you actually want to use social media for? So that could be awareness, it could be inspiring somebody, it could be about loyalty, or it could be about conversion. So be sure and be clear about how you actually want to use it. Step 4, how will you actually then measure and evaluate social media? Because this is quite important as well. What tools are you going to be using? How is that going to fit into your overall work schedule? Step 5, analyze your audience and be clear about who's actually in your network and who would you like to target through the different channels. And then step 6, what makes you actually stand out? Because this is really important, making sure that you communicate this unique selling point that your business has via social media and that you make it quite clear to your audience. Step 7, be human. I think this is a very important factor that a lot of the businesses are overseeing. Just be yourself, be personal, and also agree on your communication approach, so that if somebody else on your team takes up social media for a week while you're on holiday, so that nobody actually notices that there is a completely different person who's taking over social media. So make sure there is a common approach that you maybe clarify as part of your social strategy. Step 8, create a channel plan for each channel and be quite clear of how will you use the individual channels, for what purpose, what is the overall communication message that you actually want to convey as part of your social strategy and also as part of your overall communication approach. So once you have this strategy in place, of course, then you also have day-to-day work on really carrying out all of the different social media activities. So I would say social media can actually be done each day within 18 minutes. And I think a lot of the businesses don't have time, and time is always an excuse not to do social media, but it shouldn't be. So the first 6 minutes, as part of the 18 minutes, focus on browsing and engaging. So check the notifications, the mentions and the comments that you have received across all channels. The next 4 minutes, then focusing on monitoring your activities. So what's happening in your feed, in your network, the timeline, the news? Is there something that you could pick up? Is there anything interesting happening? Also look at what key influencers are doing and also what your competitors are doing. Then set up alerts if possible and check if any replies are coming throughout the day so you can get back to them in a timely manner. The next 3 minutes focus on posting. So actually post real-time content is needed. And also time-relevant content, because of course, although you can auto-schedule a lot of the content, it's still great to have a personal touch, and so people can actually see there is a person who's posting content at different times. The next 2 minutes focus on analyzing. So analyze which content actually performs best on the different social channels, and also analyze your audience activity, so what they are doing, how they're engaging with the content, and the different demographics and overall analytics. So you can actually make sure that you be more efficient in terms of posting further content. And then the last 3 minutes are spent really on scheduling the different content for the next days. And when you have this content plan or this structure in place, that's quite important because it can really help you in terms of being more structured and overall more efficient with social media. So when it then comes to planning and scheduling content, this is also quite important because there's different challenges that a plan and a schedule can help you to overcome. So it can help you to actually not post comments that perform poorly, and because nobody needs to post comments that nobody reads or nobody engages with. It's just a waste of time. Also, it can help you to remember very important dates, maybe a birthday of a key influencer or of a customer, and also crafting specific content. Maybe there is an event happening in the same city that your business is based in, or maybe you have a special offer on that you would like to promote or you would like to build up on. Another challenge that you can overcome is really overwhelming your audience and your network with either random social media posts and comments or too many posts, so they get overlooked. So you can really work on making sure that you don't spam the different channels, and also that you make sure that you're not forgetting a channel or you're just not sure what to post on these. And also it can help you to overcome not doing any research, and you really need to plan strategically. So a planning schedule is really something smart to have in place and can really help you be more efficient and also save a lot of time. And on the next slide, we actually have an example of a social media schedule. Of course, there's lots of variations and templates out there, so just check it out and choose one and make sure that you're actually using and integrating your activities in there. Now, when you actually then go a step further and say, okay, now I have my social strategy in place, I'm scheduling my content, and that works quite well. How do you actually measure performance and ROI? So you really need to start by setting social media goals that you want to achieve. You need to continuously audit your performance, work out a baseline targets and set appropriate goals, and also select different metrics that you would like to consider as part of that. So that could be reach, traffic, generated leads, revenue conversions. So make sure you choose which metric you actually want to measure. Then choose a social media analytics tool. There's many out there. Each social media channel will probably have an analytics tool. There's also other tools that are free, and for some you have to pay for. And implement the tool to measure ROI. And then agree on a time frame and standardize the process of continuing to measure that. And also when you look at the results, make sure that you adjust your activities and improve and succeed with your activities over time. So these are quite a few basic steps, I would say, but I think they can really take you far with your social media strategy and your social media activities. So to sum up, make sure your social media strategy is actually adapted for the different target groups. Also work in a systematic way and approach. Invest time actually into browsing, engaging, monitoring, posting and analyzing the content, and also keep scheduling the content, really stick to a plan. A social content plan can actually help you save a lot of time and be more efficient. And I think really get started with measuring your social media success, setting goals, setting targets, because that can really lead you a far way. So next up, we have another great case study, another example. So I'm very pleased to be welcoming Mawghan McCabe from Engagor, who will be talking a little bit more about analytics and also how do you actually engage with your customer via social media.
So I'm very pleased to be joined by Mawghan McCabe from Engagor. Mawghan, first of all, tell me a bit about what your role is at Engagor and also a bit about what Engagor does.
Well, Engagor is as its name says, a social media engagement tool. It's really designed to help large enterprises with large volumes of questions, comments, respond in real time to those different mentions. I've been working with Engagor as their director of sales for Europe, as well as the Middle East. We have offices in Belgium as well as Istanbul, and we'll be opening offices shortly in Dubai.
Great. So you have quite a kind of worldly experience when it comes to working in this field. Let's start out by looking at social media analytics. And I know this is the sort of core foundation of how Engagor was founded. Tell me, first of all, what does the term really refer to, and how have you evolved as a business around analytics?
Yeah, we've actually, we started in 2011, and our main focus at that point was helping our clients with monitoring as well as analytics. And then we really evolved with our clients, actually, and as their needs have evolved, we have grown with them, and they've really taken the monitoring and the analytics and decided to now engage in a smart way with their clients. But as far as analytics goes, you want to be able to judge your growth on your different profiles. You want to be able to see what's working as far as publishing. You want to see those conversations and how people are engaging with you and your brand, as well as your competitors, for example. So analytics is key in deciding your tone of voice and how you're going to engage with your customers and what they care about, because social media only works when you're really looking at what your clients want to talk about.
So would it be fair to say then that when we look at social media in general, it's really about building a relationship with your customers? Then I understand that a lot of businesses are really working with the sort of basic analytics. They're looking at how their fan bases have grown, how the followers have grown, even the content which performs well. How do you then sort of take that to the next level and really build a strategy where you can ensure that your own performance is improved, and actually this goes back into the business in terms of improving the overall performance and success of the business through focusing on engagement?
Yeah, I mean, it really depends on your industry, on your brand, and you need to look at all the different channels. There's so many different channels out there. The big ones obviously are Facebook and Twitter, but Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn. I mean, there are new channels being added all the time, Snapchat, things of that nature. Depending on your demographic and who you want to speak to, you have to make sure you're on those channels where they are. I just read an article the other day about want to be anymore. They're much more into Snapchat or something else. Instagram also is growing, so you need to know where your audience is, and that's where you need to spend your time. Because you don't want to put all your time into the wrong channel. So that's where analytics is really key, is to see where your audience is and see where they're going to be and be a step ahead.
Selecting your channel based on your customers is really the first step. It's really key to getting it right and not wasting your resources. I think we know, of course, that a lot of businesses sometimes battle with this constant struggle. How do I be on so many channels?
Business is starting on because 140 characters, the answer real time there. And, so you have to also decide or just social to publish a bunch of content and hope that stirs up a customer service channel and answer questions and answer complaints maybe, or help publish and push buzz and things of that nature. So it really depends on what you want to do and the resources as far as people. I mean, if you don't have the people to answer those questions and answer them in the correct tone of voice or with the correct information, then there's no point in opening a Twitter channel, for example. We also see a lot of people outsourcing still their social media to agencies as far as community managers actually answering questions before they can build their inside team. So it really depends on the customer and the customer's customer as far as which channels to start with.
So I think you mentioned a couple of things there which are quite interesting. So you referred to Twitter as something that could be really useful in terms of answering questions and helping customers, and then other channels in terms of kind of pushing content out. Is it fair to say that different channels serve completely different roles in terms of what they can do for your business?
Yeah, indeed. I mean, if you look at Instagram and Pinterest, for example, that's obviously more about content versus quick question answering, whereas Facebook and Twitter, a lot of people will go there for commenting and asking questions. So indeed, if you're wanting to do customer care versus straight marketing, then it makes more sense to go one way than another. Campaign, really doing campaign. They're tying all their channels together, which is quite interesting because of the lack of analytics that they can gain, for example, from Instagram. They're tying their Instagram campaigns that are very visual and have a big fan base on there, and they're tying that to Twitter so that they can get the analytics and then can quickly answer questions. So that's also a great thing to think about, is using the different channels, tying them all together, driving traffic to each other. But of course, again, you have to have the people to organize that and be ready to respond to huge volume if you all of a sudden get it.
Great. So going back to how we started this, looking again at analytics and various tools which help you understand engagement better, just tell me a little bit about how you can, get the intelligence and make the right decisions when you're working either on just one single channel or across multiple channels. What's the right process or the right way for a business to work?
Well, indeed, we believe that using tools, obviously, such as Engagor, will definitely help you save a lot of time. It will help you respond quickly. It will help you organize your campaigns as far as where you need to publish at what time, using those analytics that you get from monitoring not only your own channels, but monitoring your industry, for example, monitoring competitors. You can see what's going on. You can dive deep into the analytics and see the people behind the conversations, the thought leaders, and then you can quickly engage on multiple platforms. And if you have a large team working with you, or if you have a small team in-house and a large team outsourced through an agency or such, then you can all use this tool to communicate quickly, to be able to engage with your clients. So we, of course, believe in being able to organize everything and then make it quite easy for you to see the analytics and to work with a large team, even in multiple countries, in multiple locations.
Okay, so using tools like this is really about having something that's easy to use and it can give you the kind of results and the insights which help you make the right decisions. I guess taking away from what you've said, it's really about then having a 360 view on the conversations that take place in and around your business, including, I think, one of the key points you just raised is your competitors, and not just looking at your own activity and performance, but sort of benchmarking that with others in your industry. So I think this is a really, really key takeaway. Thank you very much for sharing those insights with us. We will certainly be looking forward to hearing more from you in the future. But for now, thanks very much for your time, and pleasure to have you with us.
Thank you.
Great, thanks. So some really great tips there from Mawghan, and certainly she's one of the best placed people to advise businesses on how to work with analytics and how to start to really understand all of that. I hope you also found all of the advice from Ramona Wagner really useful in helping you to plan those bite-sized chunks of time investment in social media. Our next interview is Luísa Aguiar from HereWeGo. It's one of the most innovative apps and business models that I've come across. I think it's a really interesting one, so you're going to like this. Just want to encourage you once more to tweet along, use the hashtag MyTourismBiz, and we are going to answer your questions with Laura and Bruce here directly after this case study, so do get your questions in. But let's hear what Luísa had to say when I caught up with her before. So I'm very pleased to have Luísa Aguiar from HereWeGo app. Luísa, tell us about the business which you are one of the co-founders in.
Yes. HereWeGo, it's an accessible tourism platform. So for people with disability or reduced mobility. What we do, we connect local hosts with travelers, giving the chance to discover new cities, new places, but in an accessible way. This is HereWeGo.
When you say an accessible way, tell us a bit more about that. What's behind your business?
I can tell you my story because it's easier. I work with an inclusive dance company, so a dance company with people with and without disability. And I was a producer and tour manager. And believe it's really hard to find information about accessible places and also HereWeGo, like connect where we can go, what we can do in an accessible way. That means if I have a group with wheelchairs, I really need to know where I can go without steps because it's difficult. So no one's better than you that live in your city will know where I can go. So this is the kind of reliable knowledge that we want to connect and have a really good time.
Great. So it's actually about finding a way to allow people to travel without all those barriers and all those questions and all those uncertainties that you probably normally have when you're traveling with a disability.
Yes, and providing you in an accessible way. Well, you don't need to send 20 emails to different associations or companies to really know where you can go or what you can do. It's easier because you just need to ask for one person to give you all this information.
So it's all about putting your trust in one individual. So I'm going to ask you, I guess a lot of people compare your business to Airbnb. Tell me, a lot of interest and excitement has been developed, as well as a lot of controversy about what is now being referred to as the social economy, which is putting customers in touch with other customers to transact.
Yes, normally we give the example of Airbnb to show what we do. We don't have houses to book that shows the city, but it's similar. The business, it's similar. This is the future. We are always looking for something different. It's the travel experience. So with Airbnb, you will have this friendly way of traveling, as with HereWeGo. So I think this is the future. You can have both. You can have your travel with an hotel and a 5 stars luxury travel, but you also can have this other side, having a different travel. So I think it will be the future, giving you the opportunity, and it's controversial, getting even more and more problems about all this new business. But internet gives you a different way of having access to all the information, and this is something new, but I think laws will need to change because it's growing, and Airbnb, it's already really huge.
So what is your message to people who are critical about the social economy? Obviously, perhaps with the bigger players that have already become very well established. Do you think they're right to be critical about how social commerce type businesses have really challenged the traditional ends of the industry?
Something new always gives some controversy. So it's good to have someone getting some criticism, so you need to really think about everything. But I think we have space for all, and it's true that it's something different. If you book an hotel, or if you book an hotel, it's different than booking a room in a house of someone. But you also are moving with the economy of the place. So it's also important to give you the choice of traveling in different ways.
Now, we've often heard about the huge size of the accessible tourism market, and that a very small amount of that has really been opened up and simply made available. And I guess part of what your app is doing is opening that up. So what is your message to others that fear the social economy? Do you see what you're doing as a threat to traditional businesses, or do you see that as actually expanding the market and creating more opportunities for travel?
Yes, for accessible tourism, it's a new market. So having even more and more offers, it's even better. If you have a traditional business, that's okay, join us.
Great. Think about your business and the huge importance of social media and conversations and the trust that people put within each other when they're on the web. What is your message to other businesses? How should other businesses think about bringing social media as a core part of their marketing strategy?
it's important to be transparent. So get a close contact with your customers and create a community so they feel comfortable to use your business. This way, it's not like here we go in a huge part of a mountain and the rest of the team. It's like something closer that will be more confident and will make you feel secure. So use social media to make this relation with the customers in a closer way. I think it's a good way to develop and to grow.
What do you think the key benefits are for businesses which really embrace social media and embrace those conversations and relationships with those customers?
You will know exactly what the customer is looking, and you can always improve your product. You can always improve your service with this close contact with the customer. So it's really good to have this feedback because also will make improve your business. It's nice, and you always find really nice persons that want to help. It's nice.
Great. Now, in terms of digital and the opportunities and challenges faced by people with disabilities, what do you see as the impact that digital technology has had over the last 10 years, but also more recently in the last 2 or 3 years?
For example, about traveling, you already can find a lot of blogs that describe travelers. So this gives you already an information that can help you to travel with reliable information. And that's really important for people with disability. Also, you can achieve easiest the people with disability because they are a community. So it's easier to talk with them using the social media. And also, if you don't know like sign language, or if you have an other's disability, having a computer will help you a lot for sure to communicate with everyone.
Great. So I think from what I take away from what you're telling me is that the web has allowed people to really communicate better with each other, and beyond everything else, this is one of the key takeaways from the success of what you're developing and the opportunity that it's created. And I think if I were to summarize what you've told me and also what your business is doing, the trust that people put in other people is very powerful. And that can be powerful both for the customer but also for a business that can build from those positive customer interactions, both with yourself and with each other. Would that be a good way to summarize everything?
For sure, that's true.
Great.
That's great.
So before we wrap up, I just want to learn a bit about your business then and how you have started. So I understand you're still in the early stages. Tell us about the story so far and about the customers that you've had to date.
We have 1 year and a half. We start 1 year and a half ago. It had been a huge challenge. And since the beginning, our main goal is to have as many local hosts as possible, so you can have as many places where you can travel. And until now, we start looking for some accelerator programs. We have been in Lisbon Challenge, and also we win an award for Inove Portugal, so about innovation. And we start looking for investors that we already found one business angel last month. So until the end of this month, we will incorporate. But we already have different travelers booking local hosts. That's really good for us. And as I told you, our first customer was a traveler from Oporto, the north of Portugal, that traveled to Amsterdam, and was a really nice travel. That's really good for us. Recently, we have here also in Madeira, deaf traveler that was looking for someone that knows how to speak sign language, and that it's a huge help. And we have done a Levada walk, and it was really nice to meet new and different people.
Now, of course, you are one of the new breed of travel businesses that have really only come about in the last 2 or 3 years, which are essentially technology businesses which do great things in travel. Do you think this is something that we'll see a lot more of and a big shift towards in the coming years?
Yes, as I told you, I think the digital tourism will be the future, because it's an easier way of choosing what you want and discovering what you want. You have all the information on the internet, so will be the future for sure.
Great. Luísa, thank you very much for sharing your story for HereWeGo, and good luck with the growth of your business. It sounds like you're off to a flying start, and we look forward to hearing how that develops further. Thanks very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So I'm back here with Laura and Bruce. Great to have you both with us.
Thank you.
Starting with you, Laura, tell us a little bit about what key things that you felt were the best takeaways for you as a business from the different experts and interviews we've seen.
Well, it was good to hear from Martin's words that really this is an overwhelming world in a way, that there's so many things to think about. There's not just one thing, social networks. There's a lot of things you gotta think about and prioritize in a way. But yeah, he also mentions how you should focus on the things you think are more important for your business, and it's good to have that feeling that you're going in the right direction.
Yeah, and also the comments about advertising. I guess this is something you can really resonate with.
Yeah, definitely. He mentioned how Facebook's results for advertising are phenomenal, and I completely agree with that. Yeah.
Okay, great. I know you have yourself some burning questions which we didn't get to cover earlier. So, in general, where do you think, as a business, you would like the most direction and input in terms of how to get results out of social media?
Well, specifically about this same thing I was commenting on, maybe like both as SMEs and being like very small and having limited resources, and that like what would our goals have to be? They have to be like awareness or driving sales, driving traffic to our website, or
I think when you're first starting with a business on social media, I think it's important to see it as a kind of moving target and not say, right, my first 3 months I want to see 50,000 views, I want to see 6,000 visits to the website. It's too hard to guess. You need to learn how your particular sector works on social media. So I think if you're starting off, I think a good goal is to be, you set yourself, is just to post good stuff regularly and just be good at that.
Okay.
If you do that as your main rule, is just making sure you get in the flow of finding some really valuable things to share, making sure you're sharing at the right time, that it's got a nice image and it's not selling, it's giving me some value as a kind of viewer. So if you find yourself after a few months you've really got into the groove of posting regular stuff that's good, I think you're well on your way. And then at that point you can say, well, then you can start to be a bit more analytical about it. So I found you're finding your feet, but how does this actually help my business now? Because social needs to be doing lots of different things. You need to be looking at getting your name out there and driving some web traffic and potentially giving some leads, but also connecting with people as well, and just being proving that you're a good business and you know what you're talking about. That can pay a lot of dividends in the long run, I think.
Okay.
So basically, your advice for Laura is take the time to just build it up in the beginning.
Yeah.
And not
Just
to
don't-
look too much at the results you're getting in the early stages.
I wouldn't be too overly fussed with results, because it's very hard to compare with anything in the past. So maybe chill out a little bit initially and just go with the flow, and just get to feel what's working for you. Maybe you'll find that you kind of hit upon a really good community in a place you didn't expect it. Like you were talking before about LinkedIn. I would never advise that, but it's kind of working, so that's fine.
Yeah.
So you never know. There's always something on social media that you haven't discovered yet. So you sound like you've got the right approach at the moment. Of you learn as you go along and find out.
How important is consistency and regularity part of success in social media?
I think it's important to get, as I said, get in the flow of posting often. I don't think if you post irregularly, you're suddenly going to fall off the map and not make money. But it's.
But is it important for people to see that you just keep posting good content? I mean, if you do it sort of once a week and then you forget about it and then you go back to it and then you're really intensive and then you stop it, is this going to effectively hamper your ability to really get good results?
It affects, especially something like Facebook, for example, will affect the effectiveness of the posts. For example, if you post, say, 6 times in a week, 7 times in a week, the amount of engagement you'll receive will be spread out between those posts, and Facebook will notice that, and it will potentially penalise you in the future for not showing your post to as many people. So I'd say post less, but post smart, post good stuff.
That's good.
Maybe
tips
for you,
then,
maybe two a week, but really, really good ones.
I'm posting a little more often, actually.
Well, maybe if it's working, that's. But you, as we all know, social media eats up content terrible. So you might have a week where you've got lots of content, and suddenly you got nothing to post. So I'd recommend the system that we use is a system called Buffer app, which is a free app for small businesses. It's free, and it's a really good system for finding content and putting it into like a pot. Which then drips out at the speed you want it to.
And you push it out through one app to whichever channels you choose.
Like all of them, all the channels you want to make them all the main ones. So it's good because you can, when you come across content, it's kind of like really strange moments. Maybe you're watching TV and you find something, you think, well, I can't go on a computer now, but with that, I do it all the time. So you just find, I'll put that into my list for later on, and I know that it's going to go out when I say it's going to go out. So it's just a helpful way of always maintaining regular content.
You mentioned TV there. We've got lots of questions, so we have to try and get to the questions we've had on Twitter. But TV is an interesting one for social media because statistics point to a huge level of engagement between TV and conversation online. Is this an opportunity for travel businesses to tap into time-relevant conversations and audiences?
Yeah, absolutely. They call it second screening, don't they? Where I think we're all guilty of it, watching TV and then looking at our phones a little bit. And I think I definitely do this for our clients. I say to keep an eye out for programs which have a link to your business. So for you guys, you have retreats, yoga retreats in Spain. So there's always going to be some kind of TV program about Spain maybe that you can try and leverage off of. Make sure you time it in the right way. We've had some success with that recently with. There's been in the UK a Chefs Abroad series, and they were in some really interesting places. So we linked in. We made sure we had some posts going out at the right time, and it was successful.
Yeah, great advice there because you can really jump on a wave for conversation,
and that's free because there'll be a hashtag or something behind. In that example, it's Chefs Abroad. So you just try and just post something relevant to that. Obviously, you can't just pile into a conversation which isn't relevant to you because everyone's like, "What's this?" But it can have a lot of leverage and effect if you time it to the right kind of program.
Great. We're going to go to some of the questions we have now. I've got some more questions for you, but we'll see if we have time for that. So we've had a lot of questions on Twitter. The first is from iTeamGRPS. I hope I pronounced that right. And they asked, what about user-generated content in the niche market? So who has some experience of that? Well, you've actually got some experience yourself of encouraging people to share their experiences at least. And you've seen quite a lot of satisfactory success with that.
People did share some content, especially on Facebook, but I wasn't using a hashtag or anything yet, so
so still some work to do on that.
Yeah, definitely.
And Bruce, when it comes to kind of niche marketing and getting people to create and share their experiences, Is this to answer this person's question, is it about choosing the right channel where that niche, that interest group is really strong, and trying to develop content and a community around something specific there?
Possibly not, because you never know where your community is going to be. And we've had clients that wanted us to help them with their Twitter feed, and then we found lots of conversation happening on Instagram. So we went back to the client and say, we really should probably have an active Instagram account for you, because people are talking about you there and sharing photos. It's like a hotel.
But your style on Instagram could actually be very niche focused. So if you're a creative brand, or architecture, for example, is something you're very strong on, maybe you have a range of hotels which is architecturally very strong. Maybe this is a way to kind of develop an identity.
Yeah, because there'll be for Instagram, for example, there's obviously the hashtag is very important. So people will engage around particular hashtags, luxury travel or hotel architecture and things like that.
So I guess going back to what we were saying before, knowing your audience, knowing where your audiences are, and then developing your strategy based on that. Probably to answer this person's question. Great. We also have a question from Carol Favre. We all know her because she joined us earlier on in the series. And she said that she works with a lot of small businesses and LDCs that have no money at all. And she wants to know, what's the best free thing to do on social media? What's your advice?
I'd say the best thing for people to do is to do what they do best, which is share what they know. So any small business or a local development company should be sharing things which is useful to the audience. So not trying to sell or say, please come here, it's great, But to me, why it's great to come here. Tell me something I don't know about your product. What is the five new trends in yoga, or things that I don't know. And it's something which adds value to my life as a social media consumer. So that's free information that only those guys necessarily know. So that will give people confidence in a particular brand and that kind of thing. So
perhaps a way to sum up is to become, or to attempt to become, the authority. In that area.
Yeah, establish credibility, because whether it's a tourism board or it's a business. If you can establish credibility, then it's going to be very beneficial to the business goals, because people want to feel they're buying into quality.
So Laura, your goal then is to become the authority on yoga and travel, and I think this is where you'll see great results.
You know why? Because someone's going to have to be. Someone is the authority in yoga and travel. It could well be you. It's there for the taking. So if you can establish that kind of activity, and obviously if you get to and be invited to write for people or maybe speak, then suddenly you are perceived to be an authority, and people will have so much more confidence in using you then.
Great. Okay, it's really good advice. Well, we have lots more questions, so I will push forward. Carol has also said it's great for your input on tourism and small business. And maybe we should talk a bit about mobile phones and the huge takeover and explain the impact. So we have about a minute and a half left. We have a couple more questions. Yeah. So in a nutshell, what is the impact of mobile? We're going to be covering this in more detail in the next program.
Fine. So. Well, that's good, because the most social media is consumed on mobile, and it's very important. But most of the content is created on desktop. So people make the mistake of writing content which is too long or too wordy. And what you find is you need to be able to capture people's attention. I call them scroll stoppers. So people are on their phones doing this all the time on the train, the bus stop, etc. So you want to be the one that people stop and look. Because if you're just writing text, or you're writing really long calls to action, people haven't got time to look at it. So you've got to be visual and direct and fun and interesting.
So going back to our earlier advice, scannable, snackable, tappable.
Yeah,
I guess
true.
This is a good way to think about it. We also have a message from Kate at Nothing to Add. And Kate says, at Think Tourism, my tourism biz, we are actually using Engagor. And she just offers her support. If anybody wants a client view, they have experience. So definitely do get in touch with Kate if you want to know more about how to work there. And she also says being able to deliver great services, meet expectations across multiple platforms and languages globally is really, really key. So I think that's a good takeaway. So that more or less sums up today's program. I think just before we wrap up, I did promise that we would come back to one very exciting, creative little idea. So tell us, what is the My Syria pose going?
I'm thinking of some kind of campaign and trying to involve people both in my retreats and maybe like future clients to post their pictures online, doing their yoga pose, their favorite Surya pose, hashtagging it.
So you're going to develop your own identity online on Instagram. That's great. I'm looking forward to seeing that. I'm not sure we'll see it before the end of this series, but it's something that's very exciting. And this is what social media is also all about.
I want to see your pose as well.
Really exciting moments. We'll all do one after this. So that leaves me just to say thank you very much again to Laura. Thank you to Bruce for all of your tips and advice there. And join us for the next program, which will be again on YouTube, live online on the 1st of April. It's all about mobile, so we'll get much more into depth on that topic then. So join us on the 1st of April at 4 p.m. CET. Thanks a lot.